Hi guys, Freddie B here. It is Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. It's time for Freddie B's Pathetic Picks, Formula One picks for the Chinese Grand Prix. Lots of things happening this week. Let's go through some silly season stuff that will maybe jar a memory or maybe even elicit a comment from you. So let's take a look at the drivers that are basically set for 2025. Okay, then we can look at what's going to happen pretty soon. So you got Max, who is set till 2028, but he's making noises. Okay, Sainz is out. Charles Leclerc is all set. He's got a long-term contract. Let's see. Fernando Alonso just signed with Aston Martin. George Russell is set. Lance Stroll has a lifetime probably, but we'll get back to that. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri also have contracts in place, as does Lewis Hamilton, leaving pretty much the rest with everybody with their thumb out, looking for a ride for next year. The dominoes are starting to fall, though, which I find really interesting. Fernando Alonso sees enough and has enough confidence in Aston Martin. Aston Martin with fabulously brand new facilities and everything, too. For him to stay with Aston Martin and help them continue to build, saying that they are faster and better than Mercedes, which is interesting because Mercedes provides the power plant for Aston Martin currently, up until the new engine regulations go in, and then Honda is coming. Keep that in mind. Okay. It all started when Hamilton decided that he was going to leave Mercedes and go to Ferrari, leaving Carlos Sainz basically without a ride. He's the one, he has beaten Leclerc in every race and actually won a race already this year. And I'm not so sure that Ferrari isn't scratching their heads going, did we get rid of the wrong guy? But Carlos Sainz, probably, he's the next linchpin in how the drivers will fall. Okay, Sergio Perez is on pins and needles, and I just don't think it's good for his health. He's probably one of the best drivers out there. He's one of my personal favorites. He can certainly drive a car. He was within a tenth of out qualifying a Max last in Japan. So the guy knows how to drive a race car, and he's got 3 second-place finishes to Max's 3 first-place finishes so far this year. I think the best thing he could do since he's out is to sign with somebody else. And my thoughts are that he signs with Sauber. And he signs with Sauber next year in anticipation of being with Audi. So that's my first prediction, pathetic prediction, for where Perez might be. These are all subject to change. Sauber's going to lose Zhou Guanyu and probably going to lose Bottas, Valtteri Bottas, although Bottas is extremely talented and is hindered only by the car that he is saddled with. So it may not be his fault. And nothing against Zhou Guanyu either. It's just that it's a very limited field, and there's a lot of players, and new players are coming in all the time. So I think he probably goes maybe to World Championship sports car racing, maybe Le Mans style. I don't see him coming to the U.S. As that. But this week in China, he's going to be the hero because it's his home race. I think Carlos Sainz then takes Checo's place at Red Bull. He's used to playing kind of a second fiddle. Max is obviously the first fiddle there, unless he decides to leave. And then Carlos would be very, very comfortable. And I think he has his way of calling his own races a bit, where he looks out for himself, which is great, but ultimately he's a team player, so there's a fit there. I think Red Bull V-Carb, Red Bull Racing, Visa Cash App Red Bull Racing, loses Daniel Ricciardo. I think Daniel leaves. He's just not living. I love him to death. He's a marketing genius in terms of his Q score. but he's really just not getting the job done, and Yuki is just beating him pretty consistently. I think what he might do, since he has a place in the U.S. and he loves Las Vegas, and he's got a place in Florida here, I believe, too, he might go IndyCar racing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't hook up with maybe the Andretti's or the McLarens. I doubt the McLarens because of past history, but go IndyCar driving, maybe with Penske also. So you got a Mercedes seat, and what is going to happen with Mercedes? So Lewis Hamilton leaves Mercedes because their car sucks, and he doesn't see it getting any better. Plus, he has a great opportunity to make a gazillion dollars driving for Ferrari. Just think of all the people that are Hamilton fans that will trade in their Mercedes swag for Ferrari swag. I may get a Hamilton Ferrari shirt. I don't know that he'll stay forever, but he's going to stay for at least a year, maybe 2. So Ferrari with Leclerc and Hamilton, with the car that they have, continuing to upgrade that car, they're definitely next year going to be in the hunt for the World Championship, to my way of thinking. I think Mercedes can bounce back too, but they got to find a driver. I think the driver is going to be Alex Albon. He's going to leave Williams. His contract's up, and he goes to Mercedes, and he's a young guy, and it's going to be kind of at equal terms with George Russell, and so it's going to be Alex Albon, George Russell, and we'll see who actually rises to the occasion. Russell's doing a pretty good job now. I think he totally blew it in Australia with that. He got that penalty invoked on Alonso, but it wasn't his doing. I get it. But I think he goes there. Logan Sargent's going away. I like him a lot. He's a good guy, but he's not going to make it. I see him either going to NASCAR, Indy, or maybe an IMSA ride because he knows how to drive a car, and he is very, very valuable commodity just outside of Formula One. So I think Logan Sargent leaves F1 and maybe comes to the U.S. and starts driving IndyCar. Here's an interesting thing. As I said before, Alpine may sell, and I would think Andretti would be a buyer for Alpine. So it's not the first time Renault has gotten in and gotten out of the sport. Michael Andretti has got the money, he's got the backbone, he's got the resources to buy the Alpine team. He may not be able to get everybody to relocate, but he doesn't need everybody to relocate. His Indianapolis facility can create a Formula One team, but he's going to want to get the best engineers and design people, and they're in Europe, and so he's going to have a facility in Europe, which I believe he already has. That leaves Ocon and Gasly on the outside looking in, maybe, because Brian Herter is definitely going to be one of the drivers. So who does Andretti keep if he keeps one of them? I think he keeps Gasly. Gasly has proven to be more of a team player, and he said, hey, whatever we got to do to get this team better, he wants it. So he has the better attitude, so that might be something that helps. So Aston Martin has signed Fernando Alonso. So Fernando Alonso is good for another 2 or 3 years. But what about Lance, whose dad owns the team? Now, Lance Stroll is a good race driver. You don't get to where he is without being a good race driver. He's won some races and stuff, but money talks. And I can tell you that to be a really great race driver, the bigger your bank account, the more chances you can take, the better the race driver you can be. So he may just leave. He just, he's had it. He'd never have to worry about money or anything like that. And quite frankly, he could work for Dad's company and probably be just fine. He may even end up being the team principal for Aston Martin. Who knows? But anyway, if he leaves, I think he leaves right when Honda maybe gets there, and then Yuki Tsunoda comes in, because Yuki is Honda's guy, and he's kind of got a development contract with Honda. And I don't think Yuki's going to get the Red Bull ride. But why not get the ride with the second or third fastest team in Formula One? It's definitely a move up. So Yuki ends up going there. So those are some of my thoughts on what's going to happen. Time will play out and we'll see what happens. I got them all written down so we can check my math when we're done. Now China, the great. I'm not a big fan of this Grand Prix. It's got a very interesting track. It's got an interesting record. They haven't raced there in 5 years. I don't know why they're going back, because I'm not a big fan of racing in countries that oppress your citizenry. Having said that, we're going to China. I will be watching the race. Some interesting facts about China. It was where Michael Schumacher had his last win. His 91st win came in China, and that was in 2006. It's where Red Bull got their first win as Team Red Bull, and that was in 2009 with Sebastian Vettel driving that car. It was where Mercedes, having come back into the sport after they left sports because of what happened at the Mil Miglia in the 50s, with Juan Manuel Fangio, one of the greatest drivers of all time, was the Mercedes driver, won multiple world championships. Huge wreck, people died. Not Fangio, I don't believe, but they came back. They bought Braun GP and evolved it to Mercedes, and they got their first win in 2012. And then China was also, interestingly enough, the site of the 1000th official Grand Prix. So they have a little bit of a history. Very unique turn one, because it is almost a complete circle turn one. So when you come down the front stretch, you got a hard left-hander that's kind of a decreasing radius turn that goes in on itself and then back up and around and out. So it is going to be brutal on the left front tire, especially. So you got to get those tires right when you are warming up. So it's going to be a very interesting race. I think that my top three for these races going to be, it could be a toss-up, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw, I'm going to say Max is in. He's probably going to win. Perez likes courses like this, tight courses, and then I'm going to give Aston Martin with Fernando Alonso, so now that he doesn't have to worry about his future, he can really race hard and go for it. So I'll say he comes in third. Okay, other possible podiums, obviously Leclerc and Sainz, they're going to be right up there. And let's not forget about Piastri and Lando Norris. So you can almost take those four plus the three, and I would say that might even be your top seven. And I wouldn't be surprised again if Haas didn't score a point. So there you have it, Freddie B's Pathetic Picks, my thoughts on China. I might publish a few more thoughts since we got a couple days. But until then, ta-ta for now.